everyone, it is May 1st and you know what that means. It's cast on day. We're doing our skill builder series for the Eat Sleep Knit craft along for the month of May. The Follow the Leader Cowl by Mary W. Martin, which she wrote specifically to teach us fusion knitting, which is a very cool technique where we use two different colors at the same time to make a motif that is the same on each side of the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and cast on. I've got my yarn here. So these are my two colors. I've got Hazelnut's Cadence in Hoppy Blonde and Madeline Tosh Tosh Vintage in Undergrowth. And I've got a 16-inch circular needle, and the pattern says I need to cast on 112 stitches. So I'm going to get started on that. I'm not sure which one I want to be my main and my contrast color. I'm not totally sure it matters, but I guess let's just start with this blue one. So it says to go ahead and cast on 112 stitches. So I do this cheater method because I do not like to waste yarn or estimate how much I'm going to need. So if you actually take both ends of the yarn and make a slip knot on your needle, you can use each end at the same time for your long tail cast on, and then just cut from the side that you're not going to use at the end, and you won't ever have extra yarn. So 112 stitches, here we go. Okay, that is my 112 stitches, and the next thing we have to do is join to work in the round. So for some reason my stitches are really scrunching up on this needle, but not on the tip itself. I'm guessing it's a new needle and there's a little sticky bit or something, because stitches are pretty loose. Now, one thing you might have noticed if you are paying attention to this is that I knit very, very loosely. So I pretty much knit everything on any needle smaller than a 3. I don't know why, I just knit very loosely. So I do have to pay extra attention to make sure that I'm casting on extra loosely, as that is the one place where sometimes my needle is a little too tiny, which might happen here, but let's hope not. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is just making sure it's completely straight before I join it. So I've got all my stitches are lined up. So now I'm going to get them into a row, and I want to make sure that I start working not with this center one, because that's the one I'm going to cut. So here's the outside one. And let's make sure that that looks right. And just, I try to confirm one more time that it looks like it's straight. So these all look to me like they are going in the same direction, but I have been tricked before, as I'm sure have many of you. So I just want to make sure. I don't, all right, there we go. Now we are actually ready to go. So because I did that, if I just flip this, those will stop. And sorry if you can see my little assistant here in the corner. I am at home in my basement, and the cat has decided to visit me. So the first 2 rounds of this, you just join in the round, and it says to knit all the way around once, and then purl all the way around. Okay, we're not going to take the yarn goose. There we go. He really thought he was going to get that. So we are just doing a basic knit stitch all the way around to start this cowl out. This is a 16-inch circular needle. circumference on the cowl is supposed to be about 22 inches if you're getting gauge, and I really didn't want to mess with magic loop while I was learning this new technique with 2 new colors, so I picked a needle that was smaller. So that will mean that these stitches are a little more bunched up than I usually do. Typically, if you want to leave your stitches really relaxed, you want to do like a magic loop so that you can just spread your stitches out as much as you need to on the needle. Now, another thing I've heard some people talk about is for casting on. What does it mean to try to cast on loosely, and how do you cast on loosely? There's a couple of different strategies that I use. Sometimes if it's something I really want to be stretchy, if I know that it's going to be tight, you know, something like a neck of a sweater that is not like a wide neck, I will actually cast on holding like 2 needles together just to make sure that there's really a lot of stretch. Because what you want is just for there to be extra yarn so that when the collar or the item is stretched, there's somewhere for it to go. If there's no yarn at all to stretch, it just can't stretch that far. But most of the time when I cast on, I just try to make the loops incredibly loose and not tighten them at all. And most of that seems to be working. I think I am right about this sticky bit on this cable because it still keeps kind of sticking in this one place. So this is the Tosh Vintage in Undergrowth, and I'm really enjoying how this feels to knit. It's really nice and squishy. It's pleasant. It's got really even color. It's looking nice knit up. It's the most important thing to me when I'm choosing yarn for a project anymore is not how the final product is going to look, but how much I'm going to enjoy actually enjoying it, knitting it, making it, having the yarn in my hands. If I am not enjoying that, I won't finish it. I'll end up with it just languishing in my work in progress pile, and I don't want that to happen. So I have reached my end of round, so I'm now going to switch to the second round, which is purl 1 round. So now I'm purling. I know that I don't knit American, I guess. I taught myself to knit from some internet videos, and I knit continental, and I guess most people I know don't. So this purl may look pretty weird to you, and if it's any consolation, I can't figure out how y'all do purling at all. I have tried and tried, and if I have to purl while I'm doing color work, I have to drop it like a toddler. So that's... Now, I'm not sure. I think after this, there's at least one more just plain knit round before we get into the fusion knitting. And I'll probably pause the video here and take a break because I'm not sure what I'm doing next. If you've already started reading this pattern, it can be very overwhelming to go through it. I know at least one of the Eat Sleep Knit kitties read it and was like, I don't think I'm really going to make this. Like, I don't think I can do it. It sounds too complicated. And I have seen a lot of patterns like that that make me feel that way. And if it made you feel that way, I doubt you're alone. And this is, again, where my honey badger, I think, comes in handy, because what is the worst that could happen? It's knitting, it's yarn. I'll enjoy it. So I started just diving in, right? I read this so I kind of have an idea of what to expect, but I start to get overwhelmed. And then I just figure, you know what? I'll figure it out as it comes. With knitting instructions, it often makes a lot more sense when you're seeing it than it does when you're reading it. which is not how I usually feel. I am definitely a written instructions person. But when it comes to knitting, a lot of the time, I can't visualize it. So we're just going to dive into this as soon as we get to that fusion knitting part. I am just going to follow the instructions and hopefully it will turn out as beautifully as the pattern photos. So. And because I know someone will ask what size needle I am using a 1, and I don't recommend trying that at home because that's just silly. But this is worsted weight yarn, and probably a normal person would like to use like a 7. If you've been knitting a while, usually when you are kind of a long time knitter, you do get a little looser as with experience, just because you start to relax while you're knitting. So you're probably looking at like a, 5 or 6 for this. But if anyone else is out there knitting worsted weight on 1s and 2s, give me a shout in the comments. Always fun to meet a kindred spirit. The really funny thing is I can't use anything bigger than a 3 until I have to use like a bulky weight needle. So if I'm knitting like Rasta or Savvy or Franca, then I have to use like an 11. So I really only use like 0 to 3 and then 11 and 13. I don't really use any other needles. And I am far more likely to try to modify my gauge on the needle that I have right next to me than I am to go hunting through my stash for a different size needle. Because honestly, between US 0 and US 3, I think the total range of needle, it's a 1/4 millimeter for each size. It's just not that big of a difference. So I can usually make it work. Okay, so I am getting to this last stitch here. So that is my round 2. And I think that's looking good. And I don't think it's a Mobius. Let me see if there are any other... Yeah, we knit one more round before we start the fusion knitting. So why don't we just go ahead and we'll just get that done. And that way we can start off tomorrow fresh and ready to fusion knit. So we're just going to knit all the way around again. Coming up on that last stitch, so I think that is going to be where we stop for tonight, and tomorrow I will be back with my contrast color and our first fusion knitting row. But there is our garter stitch band. Looks pretty good.